Mary Tudor, infamously known as Bloody Mary, casts a long, dark shadow across history's pages. Renowned as one of the most dreaded queens, her brief 5-year reign became synonymous with terror and brutality. Mary's reign was marked by a relentless campaign against Protestants as she sought to overturn the English Reformation with a terrifying zeal. She orchestrated horrifying spectacles where Protestants were burned at the stake, often forcing others to witness these executions before meeting the same fiery end. Describing her as merely harsh would be a gross understatement. Mary plunged England into a state of fear and turmoil, showing no mercy, not even sparing pregnant women if she deemed them heretical. But was Mary Tudor truly the embodiment of evil, or was she a product of her tragic circumstances? Before casting judgment, consider her origin story. Born in 1516, Mary was the sole survivor of King Henry VIII and Queen Catherine of Aragon's union. Understanding her journey from an innocent child to the feared queen might reshape your view of her legacy. Delve deeper into the story of Mary Tudor. Discover if she was a merciless tyrant or a victim of her era's unforgiving politics. Don't forget to subscribe for more intriguing insights into history's most enigmatic figures. Your engagement lets us create more content for you. Now let's start with the video. Mary's journey began gloriously. Adored as a little princess by her mother, father, and the entire English populace, she seemed destined for greatness. However, a single issue cast a shadow over her early life. She was born a girl. In an era where sons were prized for succession, Mary's birthright was in jeopardy. Her mother, Catherine, aware that Mary might be their only child, took decisive action. She envisioned a future where her daughter would ascend to the English throne. To prepare Mary for this extraordinary role, Catherine immersed her in the study of Latin, traditionally a man's domain, empowering her to one day assume the mantle of a monarch, a role steeped in masculinity. Despite Henry, her father, taking pride in Mary's accomplishments, his longing for a male heir would eventually overshadow her achievements. Mary's royal lineage, as the offspring of the King of England and the Spanish princess, also made her a highly sought-after prospect in marriage alliances. Her hand was promised repeatedly to sons of various European rulers, weaving a tapestry of political and diplomatic engagements. Yet, fate had other plans, and these betrothals never materialised. At the tender age of 11, Mary found herself on the cusp of adulthood, as her betrothal became a topic of earnest discussion, a mere year shy of the legal marriage age. But just as her path to a strategic union was taking shape, an unforeseen twist altered her destiny irrevocably. Her father, King Henry VIII, fell passionately in love with Anne Boleyn, setting in motion his desire to divorce Mary's mother. This wasn't just a family matter. It was a seismic event that would resonate through the halls of history. The king's pursuit of a divorce, a scandalous and almost unthinkable act in royal circles of the time, marked a turning point not only in English history, but in Mary's life as well. It was a moment that extinguished the light of happiness from her world. Before rushing to judge her subsequent actions and labelling her a product of a broken home, it's crucial to grasp the gravity of this event. Divorce, particularly in royal families, was a concept laden with stigma and far-reaching implications, unlike the more accepted notion it is today. This was no ordinary marital dissolution, but a pivotal event that would forever change the course of a nation and the life of a princess destined for a troubled path. Amidst the upheaval in her life, Mary's challenges were compounded by personal health struggles. Plagued by severe menstrual issues, believed by modern experts to be endometriosis, she endured more than the common discomforts. Her condition, dysmenorrhea, brought excruciating pain and cramping, far beyond the typical monthly ordeal. This relentless affliction was a constant in her life, often referenced by royal physicians as her usual troubles or her old disease. Mary's physical agony was intertwined with a turbulent emotional landscape. The hormonal imbalances not only intensified her physical pain, but also plunged her into deep bouts of depression, exacerbating her suffering. In a twist of fate, the stress brought on by Anne Boleyn's entrance into her father's life likely worsened her condition. In 1531, as Henry's quest for a new queen intensified, Mary's life was upended with acute distress. The king's decision to cast aside her mother, Catherine, in favour of Anne Boleyn, ushered in a period of profound anxiety for Mary, triggering a severe episode of her chronic health condition. The situation worsened when Henry, in his relentless pursuit of divorce, took an unprecedented step. After the Pope's refusal to grant the divorce, Henry declared his marriage to Catherine void, branding Mary as illegitimate. This seismic shift in his attitude towards his daughter was stark. He transformed from a doting father into a callous figure, indifferent to her plight. To consummate his union with Anne, Henry embarked on a radical path. He severed England's ties with the Roman Catholic Church, laying the foundation for the Church of England. Catherine's devout Catholicism had deeply influenced Mary, who mirrored her mother's faith. Thus, Henry's pivot to Protestantism during the Reformation struck a devastating blow to Mary. Her steadfast commitment to Catholicism, a core pillar of her identity, refused to waver, adding layers of spiritual turmoil to her already profound grief. Amidst this turmoil, Mary found a wellspring of support among the English populace. Many empathised with her plight, viewing her as a sympathetic figure alongside her marginalised mother. Public sentiment was stirred by the stark contrast in Mary's fortunes. From a respected princess to being relegated to serving her half-sister Elizabeth, the new heiress to the throne. This humiliating demotion was a painful spectacle, as Mary watched Elizabeth bask in the privileges and affections that were once hers. The transformation of Henry VIII's relationship with Mary was equally jarring. The once adoring father became indifferent, perhaps even cruel to the daughter he had cherished. It's reasonable to surmise that Mary harboured feelings of jealousy towards Elizabeth, alongside a deep sense of sadness, neglect, and a craving for the love she once knew. Mary's demotion was not just a personal affront, but also a blow to her status and dignity. Losing her father's affection was degrading enough, but being barred from seeing her mother further deepened her anguish. Amidst this emotional chaos, her endometriosis flared up, intensifying her physical suffering and amplifying her loneliness and depression. These hardships were not merely passing storms, they were the kindling for the fiery resentment that would shape her later years, fueling a desire for retribution against the injustices she endured. As these events unfolded, whispers of dissent grew among the populace. Many believed that King Henry VIII was erring grievously, swayed under the spell of Anne Boleyn's influence. They saw his departure from the Catholic faith as a betrayal, not just of Mary and Catherine, but of divine order itself. The common sentiment held that Mary retained her legitimacy as the rightful heir, despite being stripped of her princess title. The contrast in public opinion towards Catherine and Anne was stark. Catherine was cherished as their queen, her grace and dignity endearing her to the masses. In contrast, Anne was often vilified, seen as the catalyst for the royal family's downfall. In the eyes of many, she was a homewrecker, disrupting the sanctity of what was once a revered institution. Amidst the turbulent waves of political and religious change, Anne Boleyn was demonised as the Great Whore by those who resented the upheaval she represented. In stark contrast, Mary emerged as a symbol of defiance, her steadfast loyalty to her mother's cause resonating with the English people as an act of rebellion. Mary's unwavering stance, refusing to accept her mother's marriage annulment, to acknowledge Anne as queen, or to relinquish her claim as the legitimate princess, ignited her father's fury. She found herself in an increasingly precarious position, teetering on the brink of danger. Rumours swirled, hinting at the possibility of treason charges being levelled against her, putting her very existence under a cloud of suspicion and threat. The year 1536 marked a pivotal chapter in Mary's life, bringing events that would profoundly shape her path. The death of her mother, Catherine, plunged Mary into an abyss of sorrow. Stricken with a grief so profound that it seemed insurmountable, she yearned to escape to Spain, her mother's homeland, in search of solace and a semblance of the life she once knew. However, the winds of fate had yet another twist in store. In a dramatic turn of events, Anne Boleyn fell from grace, ordered to execution by Henry on charges that many believed were contrived. Anne Boleyn's execution brought a complex mix of emotions for Mary. While it is a harsh truth, her deep-seated animosity towards Anne, who she blamed for her family's downfall, led her to view Anne's demise with a sense of relief and vindication. This event rekindled a flicker of hope in Mary's heart, prompting her to reach out to her father in the hope of reconciliation and a return to favour. Mary's overture to her father, however, was met with a stern reminder of his expectations. Henry VIII's response was clear. He remained displeased with her defiance and expected her to acquiesce to his demands. Despite Anne's absence, Henry insisted that Mary acknowledge her own illegitimacy and the supposed illegality of her mother's marriage. Faced with an ultimatum, Mary confronted a perilous decision. Signing the declaration affirming her illegitimacy and her mother's marriage as unlawful was a bitter pill to swallow. The alternative, however, was far more ominous. Mary understood the grave risk of defiance. If her father could bring himself to execute his wife, he might not hesitate to do the same to his daughter. The stakes were high, not just for Mary, but also for her influential supporters. In a moment laden with conflict and distress, Mary acquiesced to her father's demands. Signing the declaration was against her deepest convictions, but it was a sacrifice she deemed necessary. Her compliance brought her back into the royal fold, restoring her father's affection and her place in the line of succession. This marked the beginning of a decade of relative peace for Mary. One might envision this turn of events as a semblance of a happy ending for Mary, but the reality was far more complex. The decision to betray her own beliefs and those of her late mother and their shared faith left an indelible mark of guilt and regret on Mary's conscience. She had acted to preserve not only her own life, but also the lives of her friends and supporters. Yet, in her own eyes, she remained her most stringent critic, forever grappling with the moral weight of her actions. During this period of restored favour, Mary remained unmarried. It wasn't for lack of suitors or opportunity, but perhaps because her father, Henry VIII, was preoccupied with his own matrimonial endeavours. His notorious sequence of marriages and divorces overshadowed any urgency to arrange a match for Mary. Consequently, she lingered in the shadow of her father's tumultuous love life, her status as a single woman remaining unchanged. The tapestry of Mary's life gained a new thread with the birth of her brother, Edward VI, the longed-for male heir of her father, King Henry VIII. When Mary was around 31, her father passed away, leaving the throne to the young Edward, only 9 years old at the time. The line of succession, as dictated by Henry, placed Edward first, followed by Mary, and then her younger sister, Elizabeth. Edward's reign, though marked by his youth, was steeped in Protestantism, influenced heavily by his advisors. This resurgence of Protestant power once again cast Mary, a devout Catholic, into a precarious position. Now the challenge to her faith and security came not from a tyrannical father, but from her young brother. The familiar shadows of uncertainty and the sense of a doomed Catholic faith enveloped her once more. Years of emotional strain, compounded by the relentless physical torment of endometriosis, left visible scars on Mary. She became a figure marked by both physical frailty and a certain bitterness, a testament to her long-suffering journey. However, the wheel of fortune spun yet again with the untimely death of Edward at the age of 15, bringing an abrupt end to his brief reign. As Edward VI lay on his deathbed, he made a fervent request. He wanted his Protestant cousin, Lady Jane Grey, to succeed him, bypassing his Catholic sister Mary. Yet this succession plan was short-lived. Lady Jane Grey's reign lasted a mere 9 days before Mary's supporters rallied, paving the way for her ascension to the throne. At 37, Mary finally began her long-awaited reign as Queen. In 1553, Mary made a triumphant entry into London. The streets were lined with people, their faces wet with tears of joy, celebrating the daughter of King Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon as she claimed her rightful place. The public's adoration was palpable, but they were unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. Mary, now Queen, was a woman moulded by years of resentment and a fervent religious zeal. Her reign was not just a quest for power, it was a mission to reinstate Catholicism and exact retribution against those she deemed responsible for her years of suffering, primarily the Protestants. Unbeknownst to her elated subjects, their newly crowned queen was harbouring deep-seated anger and a desire for vengeance. Mary's reign swiftly descended into unpopularity. marked by her initiation of mass executions and burnings, actions that earned her the ominous moniker, Bloody Mary. In an effort to further cement England's return to Catholicism, she married Philip II of Spain, aligning herself with her mother's homeland and faith. However, this union fell short of the happiness she had long yearned for. While Mary was deeply enamoured with Philip, the sentiment did not appear to be mutual. The whispers of Philip's infidelities were one of many indicators that their marriage was far from the romantic ideal Mary had envisioned. A telling remark from Philip's confidant, who commended his ability to endure a marriage devoid of physical pleasure or satisfaction, further underscored the lack of affection in their relationship. Mary, at 38, bore the physical and emotional toll of her tumultuous life. The years of hardship and inner turmoil had eroded the youthful charm she once possessed. Her appearance, no longer considered attractive, reflected the deep scars of her experiences. A Spaniard's observation of Mary was starkly unflattering. "The Queen is not pretty, not at all. She is short and frail rather than robust, with pale, almost white hair and no eyebrows. She is pious, but her dress sense is quite poor." This blunt description painted a picture of a queen far removed from the ideals of beauty and elegance of her time. As Mary aged, her chances of bearing children dwindled, adding another layer of sorrow to her already troubled life. Philip's marriage to Mary, it is widely speculated, was driven more by political expediency than affection. This notion, while harsh, seemed all too plausible, particularly given Mary's past experiences of feeling unloved, first by her father and now seemingly by her husband. In this landscape of personal and emotional challenges, a glimmer of hope appeared when Mary exhibited signs of pregnancy. The cessation of her menstrual cycle, morning nausea and weight gain led her physicians to suspect she was expecting. The prospect of an heir brought joy to the kingdom, with celebrations and the ringing of bells. However, this hope was short-lived. Despite her growing belly, there was no child. The mystery surrounding Mary's condition sparked widespread speculation. Some theorized she might have had a tumour, but the prevailing belief was that she suffered from a phantom pregnancy. This phenomenon, often linked to intense psychological desire for a child, can lead a woman to genuinely believe she is pregnant, even manifesting physical symptoms typically associated with pregnancy. In Mary's era, medical knowledge was limited, making it impossible to differentiate a phantom pregnancy from a real one without the actual birth of a child. The anticipation for the royal heir was palpable. A birth chamber was meticulously prepared, a nursery was adorned with an exquisitely carved cradle, and a team of caregivers stood ready to attend to the newborn. Pre-written letters announcing the birth were poised for dispatch. As time ticked by with no baby in sight, Mary remained adamant, convinced she could feel the child moving inside her. Meanwhile, the rumour mill churned relentlessly. Whispers and conjectures filled the air. Some questioned if Mary had fabricated her pregnancy to instill hope for an heir, while others entertained wilder theories, including the absurd notion that she might be carrying something as fantastical as a monkey. Ultimately, Mary was forced to confront the harsh truth. She was not pregnant. Enduring 2 false pregnancies, she grappled with the painful realization that she would never bear an heir. Her dreams of motherhood dashed as her childbearing years faded. Mary's resentment towards her half-sister Elizabeth, Anne Boleyn's daughter, simmered with intensity. Elizabeth embodied everything Mary did not, youth and beauty, attributes that intensified Mary's jealousy. The prospect of Elizabeth ascending the throne after her was a bitter pill to swallow, given her association with Anne, the catalyst of Mary's early life turmoil. Mary's reign, tumultuous and brief, ended in 1558, likely due to ovarian cancer, a complication of her long-standing endometriosis. Her dream of a Catholic England dissipated, giving way to Elizabeth's Protestant rule. Philip II of Spain, Mary's husband, whom she had loved dearly, expressed only moderate grief at her passing, further underscoring the emotional solitude that had characterized much of her life. Even in death, Mary's wishes were unheeded. Contrary to her desire to be buried beside her mother, she was laid to rest next to Elizabeth. The shared gravesite became a monument to Elizabeth, overshadowing Mary's legacy. A simple slab of black marble bearing the name Bloody Mary serves as her only commemoration,